Okay, so this is just question 1 of the one I handed out to you. So we're going to look at this type of problem. Again, we're looking at y equals mx plus b. But in this case, we're actually also looking at, remember, the general, ax plus by equals c. So the one that we're going to actually study in this one is this, right? So we're combining what we did with systems of equations. So this is systems of equations, right? That's systems of equations. So here we go. They're giving us two groups. Well, what you need to define first is what your x is. And we can say these are just adults. Adult price. So adult price, right? Because there's three groups made up of adults and children. They don't have in group 3, but the group 3, you know how much they've paid, the total, right? So what we have group 1 and group 2, and it's these that we're going to construct our linear equation, right? So what we have is y is going to be children, or so the child admission. So this is the price of the admission for a child. So now I can actually construct, right? So we know in this group, so group 1, so I'll just call it group 1, we can construct an equation. Just look at this. So we have 5. We don't know how many adults, but they're, well, 5 adults, right? But we don't know what the cost per adult is. And that's what X is talking about. This is dollars per adult, right? Plus, you have 8 children, which is, this is, its units is dollars per child, right? But you know the total cost did come out to be 170. So group 2 is going to be, well, there's 4 adults plus 6 children. That was 132. So guess what? Now we basically have what we're looking for, right? So this is, remember how I talked about, we have our two equations. Now we can actually find, you just know, you don't know what the number of adults were in group 3, right? And they're asking how many children are in this group if there are 7 adults. Okay, so group 3, you know this. We know that there are 7 adults in group 3 plus a question mark of children, and it cost 246, right? So, okay, no problem. We're then going to figure it out in the following way. Because if you remember when I told you how to add and subtract vertically two equations, right? So if you remember what I talked about, if you remembered y equals mx plus b, and then you had, this is one case, 1. And then you had this one, if you remember this, right? If you can remember this, I subtracted. This would be 0, and then you would subtract these two, etc., right? If you remember what we were doing with that, systems of equations, right? So that's just a reminder. We're doing the same thing with this. But notice if I took, and the only two equations, we can't do anything with the third one. Nothing we can do. But these two we can, because we have everything. Except if I subtracted 5x from 4x, I'd still have an x. I'm not getting rid of the y either. So I need to change these two equations so that they're equal. So what can I do? So I'm going to use group 1 and group 2, right? So if I'm going to do this, what I'm going to say is this, and there's the reason why. So if I multiply the top by 4, and I multiplied the bottom by 5, so this one's going to be multiplied, group 2 is going to be multiplied by 5, both sides. I'm going to multiply the top by 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 5 times 4 is 20x plus, well, 4 times 8 is going to give me 32y. That's going to give me 680, right? Then what I do is multiply the bottom, which is 5 times 4, which is 20x. Notice these two are now equal. It's exactly, that's the game. I'm making sure one of them is equal so I can get rid of that variable x. Or I could have done it equally with y. So if you want to try it with y, try it with y. It'll give you the same answer. Just the numbers change. So 5 times 6 is 30 y. This is going to give you 660, right? So all I'm going to do now, I'm going to subtract these guys. So vertically, this is 0 plus 32 minus 30. Well, I'm left with 2y. And then, of course, that's just going to 680 minus 660. Well, that's just 20. So then that means 2y is equal to 20. 20. Divide both sides by 2, or divide by sides by 2, and I have 20 divided by 2. That gives me 10. So I know what y value is. And remember what y is. This is dollars per child. So we know how much it costs per child. $10 per child. Great. So all I have to do to find the adults then is plug this into one of my two groups, my original groups. Well, let's just take, for an easy one, let's just put in 5. It's for the group 1. So use group 1. Plug into G1. So I'm just going to do that. So 5 times 10, 5 times x plus 8 times 10 is equal to 170. So I just plug that 10 into there, right? That's just going to give me 5x plus 80 is equal to 170. That means 5x. I'm just solving for right now. Solve for x, right? That means 170 minus 80, because if I switch the sides of 80, that means I'm subtracting from both sides 80. That's then going to give me 5x. This is 70, so I'm down to, should be 90. That's 90. And then x is, divide both sides by 5. So if I divide by both sides by 5, I'm going to get, just checking my calculator here. So 90 divided by 5, 18. So that's going to give me 18. And guess what? This is dollars per adult. So now we know the cost, right? So this is y equal 10. So we know what the cost is for both child and adult, right? The admission price. So great, which means I can find out group 3. So knowing this, I can find question mark in group 3, in G3. So how do I do that? So I'm going to have, so we know that in G3 we have this, 7x plus, we don't know, y is equal to 246. Great. Well, what you can do here then is just plug in what we have for x, right? So we know the cost. So that means there are 7 adult times there's 18. plus question mark, but that's going to be times 10. That's going to be then equal to, 246. So that's question mark. So I'm going to solve for question marks. So solve for the I don't know, right? So this is the one I'm interested in. So this is still going to be 10. So I'm going to subtract from 246 minus, well, what's 7 times 18 is 126. So this is going to be 126. Oops, whoa, yeah, 126. That's 126. Question mark then, divide both sides by 10. So 246 minus 120, 246 minus 126. Well, 246 minus 126, that's 120. So this is going to be 120 divided by 10. Well, that's just 12, right? So there we go. Therefore, question mark, which is really number of children, child or children in group 3, in G3. Right? That's what it is. So then that's 12. We're done. That's it. Right? There is number of children in group 3. Right? So that's what it is. So we just want to make sure, like this, you can even go question mark. This is just give me number of children in G3. Right? So that's it. That's the idea. And go through this video a few times, right? So you need to then make a statement. Just make a clean statement. Statement saying, there are 12 children in group 3. And that's all you'd have to say. That's it. Done. You've shown everything else, right? But notice this is what you are expected to do, right? Help yourself by identifying what the units are, right? This is 5 adults. X is represented by basically the cost of admission per adult. Y is the cost of admission. That's why we want to put this in here. That's what we're going for, okay? So this is example number 1, and I'll do example number 2, but this is very similar to what we're going to see, you're going to see on your LES. So study it for Monday and ask questions. You should come to class prepared with questions. Okay, hopefully that goes well.